Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Spar&Brawl. I hope you're having a decent day. As always, I'm joined by my co-host Sam, and we're back with another episode of the Progressive World Podcast. So, as per usual, here's a quick rundown of today's show before we get into it. So, we're first going to start with two Bad Fate videos. The first one is she had a discussion about race, and the second one is about climate change. She had a discussion with David Wallace-Wells. So, that'll be our first two stories. Then a third story from Ryan Grimm, where he wrote an article on The Intercept as well as The Hill, which connects well to Bree's second video, which is called A Maniac in Riyadh is Why Your Gas Tank Costs So Much to Fill. So that'll be a third story. Then the fourth one, we're going to have some fun with that whole university bullshit that's being started. Maybe Sam can bring some more useful information than what I would say. And yeah, yesterday we spoke about this, and he made a few points about the people who are involved, which I'd like to come back to. Then we're going to discuss the new platform called Call-In that a bunch of people are joining, Maté, Briahna, as well as Glenn Greenwald, of course. Jimmy Dore. We haven't spoken about Jimmy Dore in a while, I feel, Sam. And he's had a little back and forth with Sam Seder. So I think it's about time to speak about Jimmy Dore a bit. And then Sam shared this video by Chapo Trap House where they talk about this messed up person who killed who adopted a puppy. It's really not funny. I'm really not laughing. So I didn't adopt a puppy, adopted a dog and then killed it and wrote an article about it. So I've listened to about 10 to 12 minutes of the podcast. So maybe there'll be some details that Sam will bring to it. And then, as per usual, as we like to do with this show, we'll end with some progressive tweets, which includes a little beef between Briahna and Hassan Piker. So timestamps are down below. Sam, would you like to say anything? Would you like to warm your vocal cords, warm them up before we start the video, or should we just get right into the first story?
No, it's an article. I thought you're gonna I thought when I sent the Chapo Trap House video, you're gonna go and read the article as well. But you didn't watch the whole thing, so I asked.
My apologies. After all the great stuff you had sent me, that was the last one on my list. So I was just listening to it 10 to 15 minutes ago.
Oh no,
I
thought you may have outraged, quit the thing. All right,
no, I mean I do. Right. I have another problem with the first 10 minutes actually of the podcast, which we'll get into.
Oh yeah, we discussed. Yeah.
So the video that we're going to discuss first by Bad Fate is titled "Should We Move Past Race?" And it's a discussion. Well, we only got to see 20 minutes of it because we're not subscribed to Bree's amazing Patreon channel. So we only see the second half, I believe. So bear that in mind. And sorry, the discussion, it was Thomas Chatterton. I think I'm saying
Chatterton
his name right.
Williams.
Okay. All right, Sam, why don't you get us started a bit?
Sure. To be honest, that's the video that has made me so far most want to subscribe just to see the whole thing. Thomas Chatterton Williams is quite a famous cultural critic in the US. He's written a couple of books, and he's a social scientist. I found out about him about a year ago or so when there was an open letter about freedom of speech. Then I went back and read some of his other works. He writes about racism and about race and how it's a social construct. And he has a main argument that is quite controversial on the left, which is he says that I think it's at sort of, it's the main thesis of his first book or his second book, is that to move beyond the racist society, Americans or people, whatever, they need to unlearn race because it's a socially constructed thing and perceptive thing. And then when you can unlearn that and imagine a society in which, people are not categorized based on these abstract concepts, then we can get to a better place. And would you like me to, should I summarize Bree's position or?
Sure. I had a small comment there to make, but I think it's better if you continue.
I thought maybe you want to make the comment first.
So maybe you're right. So, I mean, the first thing that it's a social construct that is not too revolutionary, right? Among a lot of leftists and different people, or am I missing something?
I think from what I understand, again, I haven't lived in the US. I have never been to the US. I haven't lived in most of Europe. I've never been to most of Europe, but I think, or anywhere around the world, I've been to a few places. But it seems within the US, first of all, it's a much bigger deal, and it's not as mainstream. The idea that race is a completely social construct, that is, when it doesn't seem to be that mainstream. Um, or if I'll get to the second sort of part, and also it just putting aside US, I would say within like normal people, not within academia, and especially not within left academia, I would somewhat dispute your position that it's not that. I'm not saying it's revolutionary, but I would say most normal people actually think it's a real concept. I think, from my experience, at least, I haven't done it. I should have probably looked at some data regarding that before doing this video. But I mean, even within academia, there are people who are, Charles Murray and the bell curve, being the most famous example. But there are other people that are maybe not that within that spectrum, maybe not as extreme as Charles Murray. So no, I would say it is a quite a controversial position, really. It
I
is
see.
even within the left.
Because I mean, yes, when you go to the US and you say this person is black or that person is white, it's a concept that everybody understands. So I 100% agree there, and it's used, but I believe that, a lot of people had come to understand, yes, I mean, it's a social construct, but it's been constructed over hundreds of years, so you can speak about it in this way and people know what you're referring to and what you're talking about, and it's not necessarily biological. So I thought
Well,
that's kind of where I thought a lot
yeah,
of people would
that's
be at.
there are a lot of people that
Mhm.
probably agree with you and would say, yeah, it's a social construct, but it's a very important social construct. I think Thomas Chatterton Williams would agree that we have to consider it as a social construct, but we should consider it as a largely negative social construct, and that's where we get to Brianna's
Mhm.
sort of point.
Mhm.
I'm not.
So, oh yeah,
Brianna
beautiful.
Greyjoy kind of doesn't get to the argument of whether it's genetically or biologically
Yeah.
race
I mean, she
is a
said
thing or
that
not.
she understands that
She's
it's not.
she says yeah,
Yeah.
she said she understands, but it's beyond. She said it's like irrelevant to her point, which kind of is coming from your position that yeah, it's a social construct, but it has been constructed for many years, so it's an important factor, whatever. So it's real. Just because it's socially constructed, it doesn't
Mhm.
mean it's not real.
Yes, you're
But
right.
then
I'm
she
saying
says
that.
yeah, but then she says it's a positive thing,
Mm.
especially like when I'm a minority or you're a marginalized minority and all that. She's there she thinks, or she seems to imply at least, that she doesn't agree with him, that it's a largely negative categorization, which we have to move past. She thinks maybe we can move through with it towards a better future. So that's the gist of the
Mhm.
disagreement,
I
I
see.
think,
So,
if
okay,
I
so
want.
interesting. I wanted to say a few things. So, one is I believe he's not advocating for this kind of fake colorblind society, right? I mean, I don't think he says it, but there are some people who say, I don't see color or things like that. I mean, it sounds like he's kind of
Oh,
saying, let's
well, no,
become like
no,
that,
he's
but
not.
no, right? That's not at all what
Stephen
he's saying. Yeah.
Colbert show used to do a segment in his old show, Colbert show, that yeah, I don't see color. I just know I'm white because, for example, every morning I read the New York Times or something, along those lines.
Yeah.
I'm butchering the joke,
Well, that was
but
a
yeah,
good
he
one
used to
still.
do a segment. So yeah, I know what you mean. Like,
So
he's
yeah.
not. No, he's a social
Yeah,
scientist.
yeah.
He's a
He's not
serious.
saying
Yeah.
that thing's ridiculous. But then when Brie, okay, so maybe there is a way that while keeping this construct, you could, improve things. But if she's saying that it's not largely a bad thing that this social construct has been created, I mean, I'm kind of thinking of our interview with Gerard Horn and that we posted on our channel last night. So please go check that out if you haven't. And, he talks about how this identity building of people in America being the non-whites, putting them as black, it was very done on purpose in order to have this kind of population that you can take advantage of, and all the other ones can kind of partner and consolidate together in order to take advantage as much as I can. Maybe I'm butchering his arguments a bit, so I would like for her to have a little debate with him about this.
I think that's a bit of unfair criticism because she would agree with you there, but she would say, okay, but we are here now. So she's talking about very much right now. So at the moment, again, I mean, we'll get into it. I completely disagree with her position for other reasons, but I think she would agree with you that, yeah, that has happened, but yeah, we are living in now. We can't go back, and just because there is a past to it doesn't mean its future is necessarily going to be negative. And if, for example, the construct, like black construct, let's say blackness as a social construct in 18th century or 17th century, whenever slavery was at its height, was the construct, the narrative was controlled by white men. That's why you had, for example, books published that how people of darker skin, of less intelligence, or blah, 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 right? But if that construct gets to be controlled by black people themselves or by people of color themselves, then it could, like her argument with, I would imagine, I am putting words in her, like we are expanding on their arguments. So naturally we are putting some words in their mouth. I hope it's not like we are not misrepresenting anyone. But I would imagine she would say, okay, yeah, it was negative. That does now we have more control over it. It can be a positive thing.
Which I can see that how, okay, perhaps because then we don't know what the future holds. However, right now, again, still you can say that there aren't enough Black people who have enough power to control the narrative. So that's not even enough of the current reality, even, I would say, maybe in 20 or 30 years, but even right now, that is still not the case for people like her and others to be. I mean, a priori, of course, I don't have data as like as Sam likes to mention before everything he says, but I'm just guessing right now. I'm just my assumption.
No, I would agree with you that, I think again, she would say, I would agree that there is a lack of representation and still we have ways to go, but it's not as like she says that she provides very, to be honest, personal examples that are hard to find social not social, I guess, theoretical explanations. I don't know, analytical explanations but she talks about let's get into, like, she talks about the idea that it provides her with, it works for her, and that's when Thomas Chatterton Williams says yes, exactly, and that's what nobody says out loud. It works for you because because it provides you with a sense of solidarity, for example, or a sense of being I don't know, part of the community. I have no idea what,
and I can imagine otherwise that she benefits from it, because not everybody is affected the same way by a concept, right? Like sometimes you discriminate with a group, but it like benefits two or three people. So
because the interview that's towards the end of the segment of the interview that is shared, I really don't understand what she means when it says it works for me. Like
I can
I mean it might
ways.
Mean okay.
I
can I thought it anyways. Or she talks about like in having a partner that has had the same shared experience, for example, that in that case race, for example, could play a role and all that. And if you I can
that's funny. That's
I think
funny.
so. I can I can get, I think that we summarized and pretty much explained their position. I mean if
please get into it, because I have one or two small tangents that I'm gonna be disciplined and save them for the end of the conversation.
Okay,
so go ahead.
First, I completely agree with Thomas Chatterton Williams, and it's one of my he's probably my favorite guy on race. And yeah, it's okay. There is a point which sadly I don't think they expand on, at least in the part of the interview. See that he says that, look, like you say, that it provides you with. They talk about the example of what is the example? They provide you with
of him in Paris and in France. Yeah.
That's
Sorry,
I thought we basically talked about.
Yeah.
In Europe, for example, if you're a black man, you may be viewed as an Arab, because
let me just add that, because just before you said that, because Briahna says, you can show my picture to anyone and they'll be like, this is a black person. And he's like, yes, true, because they've been taught to think this way, which he agrees. And then he goes to say, but if you go a little bit on the margins, and he gives his own example where he doesn't perhaps look like a typical African American because he's half black. And he says that, like, okay, in the US, they might still think I'm black, but when I lived in France, they thought I was Arab. So he even this example, he kind of, shows that, yeah, it works for you, but it's not everyone that it works in this way for.
Even for her, I can think of many Iranian Southerners, for example, that have very similar features to her. It's more, in my view, it's more to do with the styling and clothing and makeup and that type of thing. And but in my experience in Southern Iran and Dubai, for example, I've seen many people who are ethnically Arab and identify as Arab, but look very similar to Briahna Joy Gray. And so I just don't think, first of all, just that doesn't hold up. But that's like, okay, that's easy. Let's say within the context of the US, blah, 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 and focus on the positive thing that this identity can provide. They talk about, she says that, I don't know if I wasn't black, or if I wasn't African American heritage, I would have not taken my degree and, for example, taken a high paid job somewhere and not served my community, which is disproportionately hurt by poverty, blah, 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 blah. And he points, they sadly don't go through it because I think he's too nice and they're trying to have a very congealed conversation. But he should, like, he kind of points it out that it's kind of leads to the same thinking as Richard Spencer and segregationist, because what she's basically saying that if she wasn't if she didn't have some black heritage or African heritage, she wouldn't be interested in helping people of that heritage, which kind of basically is a very sad view of humanity, that unless you have these social constructs that really, I mean, besides the whole, like, we are all humans type thing, and it might be accurate as a way of description, but as saying that, people need social constructed realities to connect to each other. But this is specific one is race, in my view, is a negative one, and what she's saying is basically the reverse of what segregation is, which I think he kind of points out, but doesn't really sort of delves into it.
Yeah, no. I mean, exactly. I mean, because a lot of things are social construct, and of course, based on like the realities that we've created, we create different bonds, and we have different interests and our past and all this. So I see it, but I see where she's taking it. And but also her argument is funny that she's serving her community. I mean, I don't know exactly everything that she does and what she's referring to exactly really by her serving her community, because her day-to-day job, which is the Bad Faith podcast, I don't think this is a podcast that's only seen by people in her community, or the arguments that she advances, or everything.
I mean, like,
sorry, that was a small thing that I picked on. I was just
no, but I think that's somewhat irrelevant, but I would say that she's she would say she's trying to promote issues regarding her community and all that, although I would say you shouldn't really talk about. I agree stylistically, I agree with you. It's just, I hate it when any of the channels, one specifically comes to mind, the initials are BP, if anybody's, and when they talk about independent media and advancing the conversation, this is not, and this is all ether. This is like, okay, whatever. I hate that stylistically, but I think she would say, okay, I'm doing like
Yeah.
journalistic activity, and fair enough. Like that's, I would say, more than like what she was referring to in relation to getting my law degree, which I think she has a Harvard or
Yeah.
Yale law degree, and going and working for, a tobacco company or
Yeah.
something. In relation to that, I would say yes, she's definitely.
And I mean, it's not only because she's black that she did this, I would assume, because I mean, not assume, there's evidence. There are
No,
black people who go and work for tobacco companies or don't help her community. So in her case, that made her have this. Yeah. So in her case, it happened to go this way, but for many others, it hasn't.
Yeah, that's
like
that's the thing about
Obama,
these.
or I don't know, just pick one.
Yeah, that's the thing about these construct, like, yeah, there is such limits to them, and when they're such general constructs, I think they are really not that useful to me.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. So what else can we say? What else can we say about this?
I just find it, I would say that again, I think Briahna Joy Gray again comes from a perspective of communication and trying to creating a broad coalition for election purposes, and that's because she worked in an election campaign and she worked as a communicator and all that. So I think that really taints her view and doesn't allow her, and not taints, gives her, I suppose, a specific angle. But when the other guy seems to, although he's not necessarily purely academic, he's more of a journalistic guy, but he does seem to come at it as a more sort of a more surgical and sort of analytical angle, and she's more looking at it. And I would say maybe in terms of, if you want to talk a strategy, campaign strategy, she's probably right that probably we should, like, if I was a candidate, I would completely avoid this. And because a lot of African Americans, black people, would think you're anti-black if you say stuff like that, right? So electorally, she's probably correct. It's just academically, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, man, I'm thinking of so many points of contention between Bree and Professor Horn, because if she would have told him that you can build these cross-class collaborations across races, he would be like, "Wake up, people!" That's literally what he would say.
That's what he said in their interview, pretty much. I would. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, depends on the time. I think contingent, that's probably the best. Everything is very contingent, truly. So I just try to avoid generalizations, and I don't know. Sometimes it seems you can, sometimes it seems you can't.
Yeah. But yeah, and she didn't really honestly present too many arguments. But did we try to take his argument? I think we did that in the beginning to like its full logical conclusion of kind of what he wants.
I mean, we talked about it less because I think we agree completely with him. But it's basically that, these are social constructs and very fluid concepts, and they fall apart both biologically and even historically. I've mentioned this before, like Roman Empire had an Arab emperor, or slaves in Rome or in Ottoman or in other places in China, for example, they were white. So it's just these concepts are fluid and change. I think that's his main point of view. And again, I'm not sure about his other idea that if we unlearn race and we move through it, we can. I mean, we might unlearn race, but I would assume we learn some new form of tribalism. It seems humanity
sure.
It's just we lose one form of tribalism in favor of another. So, I just think the problem is a bit more fundamental than that. But hopefully, maybe, it would become that. One day, racial differences, like the differences in hair color or hair texture. I don't know. Hair texture, like if it's like not, what I mean.
The type of hair.
Eye color, whatever.
Yeah.
Size of cheekbones. I don't give a shit. But so if hopefully we might. I'm sure we will develop a new form of tribalism by then, so we have a reason to kill each other one way or another.
Yeah.
But it will be for probably better. It's a better form of tribalism. But yeah, I think I mean, his suggestions are a step in the right direction in my view. But I
know exactly. Although like what he's saying and to achieving that reality seems to be, but like anything else, that's not his problem. That would be a feels like a near impossible reality to achieve. If we don't have anything much to say, I wanted to add one more thing here that's related about a social construct and like a race that I discovered when I moved back to Canada for university. Do you know what that is?
Oh, no.
Brown. Because in the other place that we had lived, brown wasn't really, but in Canada, it's like anybody from Indian or Pakistani background, and if they don't know you're Iranian or Arab, you're referred to as a brown person.
I mean,
very common and everywhere.
I don't know how much of our personal history we want to go through, but I'm sorry, but no, I knew about brown when we first met in another place other than Canada.
But there they don't use it because they're in the other country, they know much more about the different ones. So I didn't quite hear people being referred to as brown as much as I did in Canada. But then again, my brain wasn't as fully developed as you. So I could have easily missed stuff and observations that you made. And sorry, just gonna add, but then
I watched a lot of British shows, maybe that was, but brown was always like, you have white, brown, and I'm black and Chinese, East Asian features.
Well, Asian, they would say in Canada.
Yeah, I don't know.
And then, but people who knew a little bit, then they would distinguish Persians. So they were like, no, he's not brown. Yeah. He's Persian.
Yeah, I know.
that was my favorite.
To be honest, the Iranian, by the way, I hate the Persian term. Iranian is, by the way, is like such a, you can tell in my view, you can tell by a style. It's because there is no consistency at all. Like there is the lack of consistency in terms of like height, features, skin color. I've never seen a nation this level of inconsistency. It's just ludicrous. I mean, I would say Arab nations as a whole have the same type of inconsistency. You have like from super white to like super black, and then it's just weird, so you can only tell by the hair gel and the cologne.
Yeah, that's true. There you go. The Persian race and they're made fun of like crazy. Those exactly that you described. They're known for that.
Owning nightclubs pretty much and gold chain things and Jesus Christ.
And driving a BMW,
they're driving a BMW. Oh God!
Like as if their dad invented this. Is the owner of BMW. Like their passion for these two brands, you would think there are a bunch of Iranian CEOs running around BMW and Mercedes at the very least.
The passion for BMW and Italian football club does suggest that. As if there's an Iranian manager just going in Italy. But yeah, you're right. I remember in our university campus, there was an Iranian guy who would drive with his BMW, but then the speed limit was like something under, like it was something ludicrous because it was within university campus. Yeah. So you would see this BMW going slower than like people walking very slowly, just.
You gotta do what you gotta do. But yeah. Okay.
Anyways.
Shall we stick to Brie and go to her second story?
Sure, yeah. The second video, yeah.
Yeah. So her second video, the title is Are Biden, AOC, Pelosi, and the Democrats Manufacturing Climate Consent with David Wallace-Wells? Would I say, I agree. Yeah, this video was good on climate change, and it just showed a lot of the bullshit that went on at this COP26, so the major climate change conference. And just even before throwing it back to you, I feel like it came at even if it's like semantics, it came at such a bad time because usually they don't talk about how we need to get more oil and everything, but like right on their way to like COP26, they're like begging Saudis to like increase oil. Well, pretty much asking the Saudis, ordering. Well, they're not listening apparently, but we'll get to that. So I just found it to be
That's
like such a funny time that this happened. Like at the same time that people is like, give me more gas, give me more, for understandable reasons in many way, I should say. It was just funny. But let's put this aside, Sam, if you want. First, give another great synopsis like you just did about what's the main kind of argument here between the two sides, or was there an argument, or Brie was kind of more like discussing with David Wallace?
it was more of a discussion, I would say, but I
Yeah.
would say Briahna was a bit interestingly more skeptical of the politicians than David Wallace. And David
Mm.
Wallace was saying that compared to a couple of years ago, the things are looking slightly better ahead, but still it's a horrible, like it's just different degrees of horrible. So we are just gonna have them maybe the like one of the least worst case scenarios.
Mm.
One of the least worst case scenarios. But she and they were discussing the hypocrisy of US blaming China while asking OPEC to increase its production. They were and he was explaining specifically why China is not actually like why US or the West or the rich North, as it's been more commonly called now, is more to blame. Because carbon is a historically it sort of builds up and it's not gotten rid of, and China, because of new technologies and blah blah blah, is never going to even come close to producing as much emissions. And so they focused on a lot of on the hypocrisy issue. I mean, I think David Wallace and Briahna Joy Gray, to be honest, they were very nice towards AOC and stuff, even though they put their titles seem to suggest a
Were they?
harsher
Yeah. What did
stance.
they say about, I mean, you see.
They were saying that it seems hypocritical of them to say. It seems like they were more negative on John Kerry way and all that. But AOC, in my view, is just that was like, I don't know if anybody saw that America is back, and I don't mean back in a. I'm sorry, but this is the comparisons with Bernie Sanders, in my view, seem very misplaced, and the
I mean,
comparisons should be made with Bill Clinton. Just
100%. I mean,
because Bill Clinton in his own time was quite, like, if you look at the way he talked, he was talking for his time. Like AOC is, pretty much, if you look at the people, I would say she's just got she's got the heart, what do they say, the heartbeat or whatever it's called, the pulse of the middle class bourgeois in her hand, and she's performing for that class.
yeah.
But yeah, so they weren't as negative on her, but yeah, they were negative on the whole US government and their hypocrisy, the China thing. But he was saying that there are other things that seem quite positive, and the agenda that they're seeing now is unprecedented compared to other things. And but then again, at the end of the day, none of these things are binding. So
No, I
like the
mean, this,
promises they
yeah.
made before they've never materialized. So
I mean, this joint statement that everybody's celebrating, the US and China put out a joint statement, and I quickly read the article covered by the BBC, and it just says we'll collaborate more together on climate change, and this is not somewhere where we have an issue. That is apparently one of like the interesting things that have come out.
I think
But yeah, go ahead and I'll say a few things.
no, sorry, David Wales. I think the most, like, he pointed out that China or many other nations on their own are doing independently like different things because they have a vested interest in future of their nations or future of their empires or whatever. He talks about China specifically. So I would say, yeah, that seems to be, I would say that's the positive trend, if there is any. And
Yeah, I
that seems
mean,
more important because that's concrete. Yeah, sorry.
yeah, no, 100%. I mean, the US, I believe, has reduced its emissions a tiny bit, but the initial pledges that they had made in 2015, they were being told that they're woefully not sufficient, and at the same time, I believe they're nowhere near on their way of hitting even those targets that are not enough. And I just want to add a few other things. So about China, one other thing to also bear in mind is that, yes, historically, not only were they less responsible for the emissions, which a lot of it came from industrialization in European countries and the US. Also, I think we should even bear in mind that now China is such a big exporter and has been for 30 years. So a lot of the emissions should also be, bear in mind that it's also the responsibility of the US and others around the world who are buying a lot of their products. So I think that should also be in mind. One thing, and this is not really even, I mean, I guess this is positive, but among mainstream politicians, there's clearly no more climate denialism. Maybe this is not new. It has been going on for maybe 5 or 6 years, but there is like almost no, even some conservative and Republicans maybe there, but even there, everybody is now, accepts the science or whatever that means, and that climate change is man-made, what we're seeing right now, the acceleration, and something needs to be done. Yeah, go ahead. You can jump in and then I'll just say 2 other things.
Oh, no, go ahead. I have one thing to add at the end, which is a bit of a tangent, but it's a criticism on the whole framework of the conversation. So maybe you say your things and I'll just...
Yeah, no, the other one is like, out of all of these, I never hear something about like, so there are a few things that people complain. One is that nations that are much smaller and poorer and weren't responsible for all the emissions that were put out, and they also, because of their geographical and also because of their phase in the development, are some of the most impacted, and they're not getting the money that richer countries had promised kind of vaguely down the path. So that's one thing that people always point out, that it's not coming out properly out of these conferences. But the second one is, I don't hear anything about any improvements on like the renewable situation, and not even improvement like big funding or coming out with saying, we're going to increase the funding significantly or put more behind this between solar or wind or whatever these renewables are. I haven't heard much about, what are we replacing these fossil fuel things for? Because I think even me, I would admit, like, I don't want people need oil right now. People need natural gas right now. And this is not how it has to be, but it currently is. And I don't see too much movement in us increasing this kind of what needs to happen with renewable energy the way we are told. And then we can also talk about air quality, which was a bit interesting that they brought up.
That's what I wanted to bring up. But that David Vail sort of talks about that, though. He says that most of Biden programs are in form of incentives rather than direct investments. And that he says that's probably a bad thing, but it is as potential to be a good thing. But yeah, of course, because they don't care. I mean,
and it doesn't seem to be as much. And I don't think anybody has figured out a way to make a lot of money, I'm guessing, out of solar panels. That has to be.
They talk about, the main thing is that, to be honest, Europe and America are largely especially rich people are going to be fine.
Yeah.
It's not going to be any difficulty.
And that's fun. Okay. Very interesting. So that reminds me of 2 things, actually. I'm glad you brought that up.
And they knew, by the way, the thing that I wanted to really, you mentioned the air quality thing. I hated the climate change activists and theorists and all of the people, majority of the people who talk about climate change. I always hated them because, they always focused, with a few exceptions like David Wales and all that, they focused on this big concepts of climate change, and they just allow the debate to be just focused on that and suck on that. Well, if you talk about biodiversity and air quality, which are far more concrete shits, you could have stopped the other one as well, and you would have had a lot of conservatives and all these goddamn right-wingers who love the nature and hunting and that bullshit. You could have had them on board as well. But no, we have to think about bullshit climate change. The ices are melting 3,000 miles away where you can't see. Talk about air and it pisses me off so much. Like 10 million people dying every year because of air quality. I think just in India, or was it worldwide? I forget.
Yeah.
Was it? And coronavirus is the big killer. Yeah, we've been living in fucking lead-fueled air. Because it's just fucking, it so pisses me off. And the water quality. Sorry, there's lead in our water. There's lead in our petrol. There was, anyway, back in the day. It's just fucking annoying that, it's just that, and then we have to wear masks for corona, or do that for blah, or do this for that. It's just, putting like the whole, it's like you're up to here in fucking sewage, and then you're like, oh, I should put my mascara on. My eyes are not
Well, I
looking
mean, I would say two things. One is that I'm probably one of these people that you're kind of mentioning, because I do agree with the importance of air quality that you're saying here. However, and although he pointed out that it's the same fossil fuels that we're burning that are contributing to climate change, which are the reason why air quality is bad in
they are
so many
also
places.
contributing to keep cold.
Yes. However, I think that's fine to say. We just need to make a distinction, which is that you can fix air quality, but not fix climate change issues. And I believe that's what they did in European countries. So you close the coal factories, or you move them to smaller cities and outside, and then it doesn't affect the air quality. So you can address air quality and all this, but not necessarily address climate change, depending on what and strategy you go forward to. So I think it is important to distinguish between these two things to a certain extent.
I don't necessarily agree with that distinguishment, because it's all about sort of degrees, and climate change, as we speak, climate change is always happening all the time, and that's why conservatives get to say that, and they're right. And then but the point is that human activities have made it so fast that it's difficult to control. Of course, in the end, if you're rich and you build a castle out of concrete, you're going to be fine, as they will be fine, as the rest of, as like Malaysia and Indonesia are going to be drowned. Everybody in New York and London are going to be completely fine.
More or less, yes. More or less, or a lot of people, and mitigation measures will come in and all that.
All right. So people who live on near the equator, they're fucked.
No, 100%.
The rest, they're going to be fine. So I think it's just air qualities, climate change, all of it is very much manageable, very much doable. So I don't see this distinguishment.
I'm just saying they're different things. I'm just saying they can be managed, but you can fix air quality. Like I said, in Europe, London and stuff, I believe air quality was horrible during the 18th and 19th century.
Yeah, but
then it changed.
You make the distinction of a London air quality, but when you talk about climate change, you talk about globe. So when you talk about air quality, talk about global air quality. Has global air quality improved since 1960s?
But I don't think air quality is affected that way, right? Like, I mean, you can be in a city and have bad air quality, and you just take a 2-hour, not even 2-hour, 30-minute drive, and you go somewhere with amazing air quality. So I think air quality is more focused on certain places.
I don't think so necessarily. I mean, Chernobyl,
like the example that they
would have effects far away.
But Chernobyl is not air quality. That has nothing with air quality.
Wind moved the air, and then the particles.
And also from everything that had to do with nuclear energy. I mean, those things also. Yeah, so it's a bit different. But I mean, for instance, they say that in India, people's lives are getting shorter and shorter because of air quality. It's not affecting Europeans. Like, the wind isn't blowing the air quality that
not
far.
as much, but overall, I mean, in the end. But again, I'm just saying, when you talk about climate change and how it's affect Norway, not in a very positive, it makes their a bit warmer, then climate change is good. Then you can't say air quality in London specifically but again, it's whatever, make that distinguishment. I don't care. It's just that I think it was a mistake too. And they could have like, it's so stupidly clear that you shouldn't, like, you don't rubbish the environment. Like, or it's like people who say, oh, we didn't know smoking was bad, doctor. Like, everybody knew smoking was bad. Like,
I don't know if they did necessarily 100 years ago or whatever.
Man. It was God. Of course they did. There are written texts from medieval ages saying smoking is bad, because it's kind of fucking clear that giving is smoking. And then but there were advertisements on TV. Oh, fucking idiots.
Yeah. No, I mean, you would assume, but sometimes you would think something is bad in that way, but
it's like cigarettes were invented just out of nowhere. There was no pipe before. Nobody saw shisha.
Yeah. But I mean, people used to die at a younger age and stuff. So sometimes you wouldn't get to see those kind of things. But I want to
See
say
what kind of
one thing
things.
that you see that smoking is affecting their, their health because people would die from other reasons at an earlier age and stuff. But I wanted to talk about one thing that I find this
Disagree.
number is always thrown out and people kind of think that this is somebody else. So this figure of 10% also came out of their podcast, in the podcast. They're like, oh, but it's 10% of people in the world who are responsible for most of the emissions that are put out.
Yeah, I
And
hate
those
that.
10%, I feel like people don't realize who those 10% are. Like, I believe you have to make around 100,000 or more to fall within that category globally, or even less. So sometimes when we say this, we kind of think, oh, the 10% are Elon Musk and Bill Gates and those three aristocrats. No, it's pretty much half of the population in Western countries. So I feel like the connection sometimes seems like it's not made. Like, we're the 10%, Briahna is the 10%. Most people watching this video, I would assume, are part of 10%. I should have brought the number.
But okay.
So sometimes I feel like we say the 10%, but we fail to think, who are these 10%?
No, that's why I think, by the way, everybody wants, it's like we're gonna talk about when we get to the gas crisis. Everybody wants everything they want now.
Yeah.
And they want their favorite things, and then they're wondering why the planet is getting fucked. But there's too many people wanting too many things. That's why we need less population control. And then they're complaining about their quality of life in the US, and then they're like, okay, what we're going to do about, how can we invest in China so it can grow in a green way? What do you think they have the patience, or would you have the patience if you were in their place? And nobody wants to be serious about this issue. This issue has been settled. The rich people will go into their castles and the rest will die.
It's not even just really, really rich people.
Done.
It's part of Western countries. Exactly. The 10%, like a big,
I would say
portion.
More than that. I would say 30%. And by the way, they keep talking about like the 3 people that cause more pollutions than all that. 3 people, like this bullshit. Like, what do you think? Elon Musk, he's a representative of a fucking structure within a society, okay? And that is structure is causing pollution and blah 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 blah. So this focus on like, oh, these 3 rich people are causing this, these 3-4.
But I feel like
even leftists, I think, are not serious about this subject. They don't want to face the reality that it's goddamn over. The only thing left am I online?
Yeah, you're completely good. Oh, your screen is frozen, but I can still hear you. Keep on talking and I think you'll come back. Hello? Yeah, you're good. You're good. Don't worry about it.
Am I good?
Yeah, your screen just froze for a second. Keep on going.
All right. Sorry. All that is left is either, it's just at this point is mitigating. Activities.
It's huge.
And the best one is to educate people and educate especially women and all that about sexual reproduction and stop goddamn reproducing. So,
but I mean, Sam, that this is a place that we disagree, and I think the 10% fact shows this. If there was even a smaller population, we could have still been exactly where we are, given that it's only a certain percentage of the global population who are responsible for this. So, you could literally go kill everyone in Africa and get rid of them, and it won't make a dent in climate change, neither now nor going forward. You're shaking your head, though. I'm not too sure about what.
We've done this like 10 times before, but I bring up the example of Black Death and how it reduced the power of it increased the power of the labor in Europe, but whatever. Anyway,
we'll put that aside. So let's continue with the Saudi story. So Ryan Grimm wrote that a maniac in Riyadh is why your gas tank costs so much to fill. What do you have to say about this?
What's your take on this?
My take, he says, like, maniac. I mean, he's saying one thing that I've been trying to say, which is that a lot of the inflation that is going up has to do with the price of energy, including oil, and OPEC Plus is intentionally limiting the amount of energy and oil that they're putting in the market, so the price has gone up. So I agree with that. But for some reason, I just didn't love the headline and the reason that he gives on, like, saying that, because of MBS and all this is why your gas tank costs so much. It kind of takes away, I feel like, all the responsibility that Western leaders or US leaders should have. So although I'm all good with calling him a maniac, I just don't know why I didn't love it. Let me see what you have to say.
No, I wanted to take your take, I suppose, before giving mine, because I watched a video that Ryan Grimm did. I read parts of the article, and I think I think this is a goddamn hit piece, to be honest. I never thought I'd be defending MBS, but first of all, like this is just reminds me of watch an interview from Shah, the last Shah of Iran, with a British reporter, and you're increasing the price of oil, and the British people are cold. Well, fuck you. I don't give a shit. Like when you increase your price of weapons and we have to buy them, or when you increase any price.
Why couldn't I make a good argument like you?
Murderous maniac, as if American presidents are good, or those idiots sitting in their Senate, bunch of people who hire mercenaries as and come and respect like mercenaries, like they're goddamn friends with Eric Prince and bunch of lowlifes. Like, who are you? Like, the attack was so you can discuss whether OPEC, but if there is any criticism of OPEC, is that it's too goddamn willing to go ahead every time America orders it around. If Saudis have developed some level of balls to stand up to Americans, good. I hope they do it more. I hope the goddamn inflationary prices that the third world has been pretty much experiencing since 1970s get a bit filtered through to the US. It was the most ludicrous thing that I've seen, because again, it was just like, Blinken going around pretty much bullying people in OPEC, and then, we are being, MBS is because of this maniac in Riyadh, and he's trying to punish the good Democrats. Jesus Christ.
Right? No, that was beautiful.
It was pathetic.
You did a much better job than me. And I think this is a first. We've now officially defended MBS over Ryan Grimm. Guys, please don't hold it against us. He also, if you want to go down that argument, you forgot to mention the Russians, because it's OPEC Plus, and the Russians and the UAE are also very much in agreement with Saudi Arabia, I believe.
By the way, the idea that Saudis are like they have any level of a close to level of independence that the European nation or Israel has is a joke. Like, half of the royal family are directly on the payroll of the CIA. Everybody's worried that there is going to be a coup any second. Jordan as a nation is directly funded by CIA. UAE is funded half by MI6, the other half by CIA. And then like OPEC, as if OPEC is if anybody is, by the way, doing this, is probably Republicans, if anything, like a bunch of rich Americans. By the way, this complete misrepresentation of things. And I'm not sure this is the case, that the Saudis are doing this on purpose to, for example, hurt Democrats or hurt US. This should be seen as a larger context of this things, in which Saudis, among many other people, are realizing US is retreating, at least from the Middle East, right? The attacks on Aramco, Afghanistan, and US basically going has shown them that. And this process started before Trump left office. They're trying to become a bit more independent. So it may be that. It may be some rich Republicans pressuring MBS to make Democrats worse. Well, but whatever this,
and also money for them too, because the price is higher now, so they may be generating more profits this way.
And by the way, they've pushed product. I mean, I don't know about Saudis. I haven't read specifically about Saudis, but I think I'm sure about a year ago, Saudi production was at its like maximum. Russians are at their maximum. Their demand has increased.
No, no,
And
no.
no,
Yeah.
but the American
No, it is
citizens are
true that
cheaper.
listen, when
Jesus
Corona
Christ.
happened and the price of oil dropped all the way down, they did start limiting it. And now they're increasing that
Yeah.
limit bit and bit. So, like I said, Ryan Grimm is right that probably has a lot to do with the price of oil being up because they're limiting the amount that's in the
Oh,
market.
no, but
Also,
that's,
the
I'm sorry,
sanction on
wait,
Iran and
wait.
Venezuela are also limiting the amount of oil in the market if you want to add things. I mean, there are
That's
many ways of
marginal, if anything.
adding more,
That's
perhaps.
more in case of US, it's like
Hmm.
almost none.
In the
It
case of
has no
US,
effect because
yes.
they don't like the oil. At least or the Iranian oil has never been
But it
compatible
could
with.
globally change the
But
prices, right?
sure, yeah, it's not that. But okay, but I would say, what was I gonna say?
What did I say that pissed you off?
Mm.
That they, so yeah, they limited it. I'm just going back to my thought. They
Oh
limited
yeah,
because of Corona. Yeah.
yeah, they no, you're right that they sort of limited production, but there was a yeah. I'm just saying that yeah, but the demand has increased as well. It's a very
Oh yeah,
complex
demand
thing,
went
and he
up. Yes,
frames it
sorry.
as a
Yeah.
yeah. He frames it as this bullshit. I found
Yeah.
it very, and you know the I mean the hidden jingoism of, and that's what I mean by the way when like are you so goddamn, I have my own by the way preferences regarding my own nation and my own culture, blah blah blah, yeah, my own prejudices,
Yeah.
let's call them, but I'm not goddamn blind to them, you know.
Yeah.
I don't think, oh, Chinese, they're so mean, man, they're charging us more for steel, these mean
Yeah.
Chinese people, they're maniacs.
Yeah.
No, I
Yeah.
understand it's a goddamn business, it's not a
Yeah.
yeah,
And so
anyways.
many other factors, so many things the US can do, the
But when
Biden
it
can do to change the price.
no, but when it comes to Joe Manchin, we should be diplomatic and we should be
Mm.
respectful of Joe
Yeah.
Manchin. Joe Manchin would have had 7 Jamal Khashoggi's hacked to pieces if it gave him like six more
Yeah.
dollars. It's just,
No, seriously, really weird ass argument by
and by the
Ryan
way,
Grimm. And you said, sorry, you said
oh
you didn't read the article fully. I read,
no,
it's not a long Intercept article, and from what I recall, he doesn't
it's not
present
great.
anything else that was different from his video on the Hill.
And but yeah, I hate the fact that it's just with MBS happened quite a lot. Like this is Saudi Arabia has killed like not millions, but has killed.
Yes.
Sorry,
No,
I'm
I'm not. No,
exaggerating.
it's before you said that. But yes, I mean they were in
No,
war
has
with.
killed millions in
Yeah.
Yemen and Syria, you could argue. But anyway, but has killed dozens of Saudi journalists, you know, people, women activists have been
Young
tortured,
activists,
people who are
teens,
like
I believe.
atheists, yeah, teens for like, you know, like playing God of War, people have been stoned, you know, all of that has gone. But as soon as their goddamn friend Jamal Khashoggi, former censor, son of Adnan Khashoggi, one of the biggest weapon sellers in the world, merchant of death, when his friend gets killed, then suddenly MBS
Yeah.
is a maniac. When their friend, rich people in Saudi Arabia pretty much get a house arrest in Ritz Carlton, in Ritz Hotel, you know, one of the fanciest places on earth in Saudi Arabia. Oh, that's very bad. But nobody talks about the everyday prisoners. Nobody talks about the fact that 30% of like people in Saudi Arabia are living a media blackout.
Mm.
Jesus, just get a
No.
life.
Yeah, I honestly don't have much to add, and yeah, and his yeah, Ryan Grimm's whole argument is really it's in the headline. A maniac in Riyadh is the first part, and the second one is your gas tank costs so much to fill. So he points out something, right?
Yeah,
And
this
then
is and again, by the way, all the leftists that thought, you know, it might be good things coming up because of crisis and all these strikes is a good sign, maybe it's not. Look at 70s, same shit happened. They blamed the third world, they exported every fucking war and chaos to the third world, and this time with the help of climate change, it's going to be much easier, water wars and all that. So it's going to be great. We're going to have a great 20 years ahead of us. Just fantastic. Fantastic, as the Germans say.
all right, Sam, I think we've said everything we had to say with this and ridiculous Ryan Grimm story. So we can move on to our next story, which is on this whole university that's being this new University of Austin. Breaking Points covered it, others have covered it, and there's an article which introduced it. Title says, "We can't wait for universities to fix themselves, so we're starting a new one." And this whole initiative is being spearheaded by, I always forget her name. Sam, can you please remind me of her name?
Oh, Barry Weiss.
And can you also elaborate? I didn't know much about her. Can you also say a few words about her?
I believe she was a writer at the New York Times. She left last year. Actually, in this podcast, we talked about Thomas Chatterton Williams, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, and he in his open letter about a year ago, like Barry Weiss was one of the people who was also, I think, was a signatory or was discussed. Anyway, she's a New York Times writer. She's a lesbian who's right-wing, and in my view, just like Candace Owens, who's a black right-wing person, kind of coasts off of that sort of thing, that, I'm a sort of a, I'm exceptional because I'm from a minority, but I accept the right-wing ideas. And she focuses a lot on freedom of speech and all that. I'm not a fan, but, I haven't, to be honest, read too much of her either. But from what I've read, it was pretty just, idiotic. It's just uneducated. I mean, forget about whether she's right or wrong. I do think even if you do agree with her, find more. There are better, more interesting writers, even within conservative circles and right-wing circles. Anyway, but she famously appeared on Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan also destroyed her once on some issue. Similar thing, Dave Rubin thingy. The video was just so pathetic that she.
I haven't seen that one. I love the Dave Rubin one.
Yeah, but she's. It's the university thing. I have a bit of a. I mean, go ahead.
I think if I just give my take, I think that would be a great starting point for you to just take.
Yeah, I think
so. So I heard it on Breaking Points, and I just couldn't stop laughing for 10 minutes. If everybody heard the things that Breaking Point said, I think I agree with 80% or so of their takes.
I shared the video from Chapo Trap House, and I thought you would agree with their take, 90%.
There's two. I listened to the Chapo Trap House, so that one as well. And then, the first thing, it just, go ahead, go do it. I mean, I don't think it's going to make the world worse.
God willing.
So please be my guest.
Godspeed, sorry.
To me, it smells more like something they're going to have, because they're saying we're going to do a little summer program now, and then we're going to do a master's and all this. And to me, I wouldn't be surprised if we either don't really hear about this project again, or they make a bit of money in the summer by ripping off some people, and that's the end of it. But who knows? But I think the list of the people who are associated to it makes it a bit interesting. I mean, some are straight up like your typical and deranged, annoying people, like where's his name, the economist, Larry Summers. Yeah, so it has chaps like that, but there's one person
he was advisor to Obama. What do you mean he's a deranged economist?
So there you go. But there are one or two more people who seem a bit more legitimate, that perhaps gives you a reason to.
I mean, look.
Even that. Yeah, let me give you that, and then I'll start. I'll give you that. You can go, and then I'll probably add some
they
more.
have a couple of people that are. I mean, look. I full disclosure, I used to be a massive right-winger when I was 15, 16 type thing. And it's not funny. I feel like I had a very natural progression from right-wing to complete left-wing. Same path E.H. Carr went through. I have no shame, whatever. But but besides, putting aside that, for example, they have a Steven Pinker, who's dealing Steven Pinker.
Yeah.
That's one of the people that. Oh, you don't know Steven Pinker? No. Oh, he's a very famous linguist. He's a I don't know what exactly he is actually. He's a neurological semantics or something. But he in linguistic studies anyway, he's very much talked about. He's a major figure in linguistics, and his writings on linguistics are very. I mean, I've read these, putting aside political beliefs and shit. He's genuinely like major figure within the linguistics and neurocognition. He's an expert in neurocognition, I believe, within that field of expertise. But he has also had very questionable dealings with people, including Jeffrey Epstein. And he has written a somewhat, in my view, somewhat laughable book about how like now times are the best times. Like he subscribes to this empiricist positivist school, and he tries to quantify what is. And then Noam Chomsky, by the way, tries to respond to him in kind. And I think Noam Chomsky's response is also equally problematic. And Noam Chomsky talks about hunter-gatherer society as being better than. So anyway, but no, Steven Pinker is a very problematic person. But in terms of like in cognition and linguistics, he's undeniably an expert. It's kind of like the Bill Cosby situation, where the guy's like definitely. I mean, Bill Cosby, I never liked his comedy. Let's think of. I don't know.
But I mean, you're thinking of someone who's good at what they does, but they're not a good person, right? Which is like a lot of
Michael
people.
Jackson.
I don't know why I'm blanking now. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Michael Jackson, whatever. Like it's a bit like that. Or
there are a lot of people like this. I mean,
or at least they like, for example, if a Steven Pinker has a lecture on linguistics and cognition, I definitely am interested in watching it, right? But if he wants to talk about social history, you're out of your depth. Like, just no offense, but it seems to not be your expertise situation. Then you have people like Neil Ferguson, who's a very interesting character, who is one of the people who I read, like one of the first academic books I read was his, called The Empire, which is pretty much a book in defense of the British Empire. And he's made a BBC TV show, which I think is available on YouTube. Anybody's interested. He's a very fascinating historian, and I think he brings a lot of interesting stories out of the history. But I find his politics to be very problematic. His predictions idiotic. Sometimes his analysis of current stuff completely idiotic. But some of his historical work, especially in the past, was really good. But then some of his new work, like he wrote this bullshit autobiography on Kissinger, which is just such a like court historian style. But then he had his other works I quite like, like The Empire. I like. He talks about he has the power, the money, the finance. He writes about. He's a very good academic historian. So again, like. It's
I mean, these are, and you're trying, so like these are like the better characters who are kind of involved in this, right? These are kind of
the most famous ones.
And then I want to come back.
By the way, they got a philosopher from University of Sussex that's she used to, at least from what I recall, she used to be regarded as like a reasonable, good.
We're going to come back to her. I want to approach her in a different way. So we're going to come back to her. One thing I wanted to say about these people that you kind of mentioned, let's say if some of them are good and stuff. I have no evidence for this, right? I have no evidence for this. But I wouldn't be surprised if some of them didn't know who's the other person being involved. Like, Barry Weiss told, these three are going to be there, but like left out the other two people that are part of it, which would have maybe made these people not be part of it. I mean, just from outside, it smells like a lot of bullshit. But as Sam often likes to point out, I don't have a lot of evidence for this. So this is just kind of my feelings, quote to speak. It's kind of what my gut is telling me.
Personally, I don't know if in Chapo Trap House, I think in there they mentioned it, or in Breaking Points, but I think or on the Hill they mentioned it. The whole accreditation, like they are saying that they're already in the process of getting accredited. And for universities, if anybody's from the UK, I know at least it takes many years, like for a polytechnic to become a university, and polytechnic is already halfway there. It's not just summer course, but so they're saying that, and that's probably, I think they're gonna probably use that excuse in a year or so when they're asked about what happened to that.
Yeah, exactly. And what Crystal Ball points this out, she's like, they're already putting the excuses in there, like, oh, you won't let us do this, and you will judge. Blah blah blah. I forgot what we expect to face significant resistance to this project. I mean, you're a bunch of very successful, famous people, so you shouldn't face too much resistance. Actually, I would perhaps say meaningful resistance. Yeah, sure, I'm talking crap here, but I don't know how much resistance that is.
Oh no, I don't think they will meet any resistance.
Yeah, well, they're saying that already. I read that. That's so cool.
Barry Weiss and that type of people who are spearheading this project, in my view, in my very humble opinion, are nothing but a bunch of fucking grifters. So
yeah, no, 100%.
Neil Ferguson is a weird character because of his tweets regarding this issue. I'm not sure if he's and because of his stuff about Trump and his whole stuff about Islam. It's just so weird the way I'm never sure if he's a grifter or not with him.
And some of these
people saying that for audience or not. But Steven Pinker, I genuinely think he might just be an old man going an old, possibly perverted man going like, yeah, whatever. This guy is New York Times. Okay, I'll come and do a lecture, whatever.
Yeah, and some of these people are not even professors. Like Andrew Sullivan is a political commentator. We found that he has a PhD, but that doesn't.
Well, he could become a professor.
He could become a postdoc.
Can you imagine being taught by Andrews? I mean, I suppose, again, as I always like to point out, Samuel Huntington and Francis Fukuyama have taught at universities. So,
yeah. And a lot of economists teach at universities, and they have like 5% of what they say is like based on their research. Yeah. And then the rest is just like
Alan Greenspan.
They bring it. Yeah.
I still can't believe Alan Greenspan, the idiot, the goddamn fool who was in Ayn Rand circles. You know, he used to, I think, play guitar for Ayn Rand or something in the 80s.
Jesus Christ.
Goddamn, and he was like regarded as an economist. He should be regarded at best as a shaman or some kind. Like, you know, that's the level of qualification. Anyways.
But Sam, let's get into the reason, and I'll use this professor Kathleen Stock as I told you to wait. We'll get to that. So let's talk about the reasons that they kind of give as to why this university is desperately needed, right? What do you give to some of the reasons that are said that, you know, in universities, people can't express themselves anymore. There is no like freedom of speech and all this. So those are the reasons, right, that are given by her. Yeah. So what do you make of some of these things that are being said?
I think that's partially true, but very much exaggerated. When I was at university, it was a very good time, but like probably 10 years, 20 years before me, you would see older people who would complain about, our leftist ideas are always censored and all that. So, you know, society changes and some ideas are more acceptable in some times than the other times. I do think there is a real problem with cancel culture when powerful people go after or mob of people goes after someone's job specifically. That's in my view. I mean, that's what Thomas Chatterton.
You know? These are kind of different things. Exactly. I feel like you need to say exactly which one is what. Like they kind of,
you know, that's exactly a perfect sort of returning to Briahna Joy Gray thing. Thomas Chatterton Williams, I think he says something that applies to race, but applies to everything. He says there is a slippage, language is slippage, and we don't talk about things.
We're not precise.
We're not precise. Exactly. We don't speak about things precisely. So I'm trying to say there is a general thing that is going on that I believe has changed compared to before. Like you can't say you can't say a lot of things, you can do a lot of things that in my view are okay to do. And
even that, I would like to get more into it. So let's use this person's example, right? Kathleen Stock. So I believe, I don't
know about her example.
I have the article.
Just going to say, do these people, though, these are specifically Barry Weiss. I'm not talking about other people here. I definitely are exaggerating it, and definitely are. This is not the biggest issue in the country.
That
The
too.
infrastructure, all of that is anyway.
Yeah. And
So
like
I'm
I
just saying,
said, yeah.
no, I just don't want to say it's completely out of nowhere. No, there is a concrete thing. They capitalize on it,
Yeah,
just like any grifter would.
maybe there are some concrete things, and I think they all differ from one another at times. Some of them are similar, but we kind of put them all together, and especially these people put it all together in this way. And you said there are other bigger problems, and I would usually I say that's not a thing. Okay, there are always other bigger problems. Doesn't mean you shouldn't focus on something else, but they blow it out into like this huge thing and make it seem like it's
Oh,
crazy. But let me go ahead, and then I'll get into this
sure.
campaign
Just
stuff.
wanted to say that I just philosophically, I disagree with you there. That I do think, no, there are categories of issues, and you should focus on. You should prioritize. Yeah, and yeah, and I think this is the issue, but it's not a high priority issue.
Okay, all right. Let's leave that at that for now. But I want to use, okay, so let's look at this professor, right? Let me just read a little bit from her. A professor accused of transphobia for reviews on gender identity is quitting her post at the University of Sussex. And she's one of the people who is referred to in the article as an example. And is she named as one of the people who are part of it? Or is she just given as an example? No, she is part of the project. So philosophy professor Kathleen Stott, who rejects the claim, said she would be leaving after a horrible time and difficult few years. Earlier this month, an anonymous group launched a campaign to get her sacked. The university had defended Professor Stott, saying its staff have the right to say and believe what they think. The academic said on Twitter, "This had been an absolutely horrible time for me and my family, and putting it behind me." Posters calling for her to be fired were reportedly put near the campus, and an image emerged on social media of a campaigner holding a banner saying "Stock out." So based on what I understand, this is not the university who censored her. The university actually seems, based on this BBC article that I read, I really don't know much about it, seems to defend her. So other people are allowed. Isn't that freedom of speech? If Ben Shapiro goes to give a speech and 400 people show up and like, no, Ben Shapiro, I don't know what they say, Ben Shapiro out, and make a big scene, and he's unable to give his speech.
Wait.
Is that cancel culture? Is that being thrown under that?
Sorry.
And
I didn't understand.
He's unable to give his speech because there's just so many people protesting against it.
Okay,
or something.
I think you used again, like we always go through, use the bad example, I think, but I agree with you largely. I think she's.
But what about her concrete example?
To be full disclosure, I studied my bachelor's at University of Sussex, and I would say there was a very hostile relationship between university authorities and students. Students were far more social, wokey, social activists and stuff. I was personally a couple of times told to, man, you should be careful, because I had right-wing views. I felt it was a joke when I was told that, but then my other friends who witnessed it told me that, man, are you like, you shouldn't just put up with this. So it can be funny. A horrible time. Wait.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry, my bad.
No. But I think, that's, if you say things, people are idiots, and they're gonna. I mean, I'm glad I was taking it always as a joke, because it turned out it was always like, they're not gonna do anything to me. Like, what they're gonna, what bunch of goddamn
who are these people
gonna catch me? And,
like, who are they referring to? Yeah,
PhD students.
I mean, that's funny.
Wait. But again, like, if you're giving, I think protesting is fine. Like, there was a Christian cinema thingy recently that they went to a wedding, people, and protested her at a wedding function. All of that, I think, is completely fine. But if it's a university funded lecture, do the protest before and after, and that's great. But let her speak, because I would say there is a student representative in the university. You should focus on them, saying that, why are you inviting the people we don't like? That's fair enough. And I would say, for example, look at LSC's the LSE, another university I went to, they just protested Israeli ambassador, and they allowed her to do this, to do her talk. They allowed her, but before and after, when she was going in and out, they protested it, and they were saying that she's got awful, disgusting views. But allow them to talk if they're arranged speaking thing.
Sure.
That's my view.
Sure, but let's say there were even more of them and she decides not to give the talk or whatever. Then these things, I feel like they're twisted into, oh, there was cancel culture. The university said, no, this doesn't sound like cancel culture.
If at the time they're talking, they're shouting and heckling, I think that's not.
Yeah, right. Maybe if they're outside, not, but yeah, maybe inside. But man, the first thing that comes to mind is university has either changed, but I did my bachelor at the same time as you. And some of the most in Canada.
Mine was ahead of the curve.
Yeah, maybe. And but this is the time where conservatives, there was Harper, who was the president of Canada. So being a young conservative was pretty cool. And I remember a lot of the most outspoken people were the right wing and conservative people at the university. And they would say a lot of things. I mean, nobody got said no and stuff because they didn't say anything too problematic. So I would like to know precise examples. And there is true that universities.
You're talking about North America.
Yeah. I mean, this is North America. These people are all from North America, most of them.
No, so the University of Sussex isn't.
No, Sussex isn't. But all these people that are part of this, a lot of them, this new university.
Yeah.
Are in North America.
Europe
and there is, and I don't want to say that there is no censorship or anything like that. I forgot their names, and I don't think they have anything to do with this, but professors who published on Palestine, I believe, lost their jobs. I mean, there's Norman Finkelstein. He's not part of this, but he has, I guess, suffered one of the biggest cases of real cancel culture, if you want to say it.
Chapo Trap House and even the publication I Hate Guardian, they make fun of that we have our Palestinian studies course ready. Can we start now, or should we wait, or when should we do our Palestinian? Like
exactly.
Well, I mean, it's I mean the whole I know the hypocrisy level is just. But I would say that you're right. We should define things differently and precisely, then we can solve them. But I do think there is I don't know. I found it as I was we were ahead of the curve for sure, but it got far worse. And I told you about a couple of examples that I'd rather not discuss in public, but it did become really like you couldn't. And by the way, I am somebody who is a bit maybe on extreme of things in terms of I'm more on this is one thing that I really respect American society for, that I think their freedom of speech laws are the best. In the Europe, you have far more stricter slander and defamation laws, libel laws. So I really respect that about American society, and maybe I'm on the extreme there, but I did feel like, again, I think you should grow up and just don't give a shit about what people think about your opinions if you actually believe in them. But sadly, a lot of people do self-censor. They feel afraid. They shouldn't be intimidated. There shouldn't be an atmosphere of. I know that sounds like I'm sounding like a right finger from Thatcher period, but there shouldn't be an atmosphere of intimidation. That's all.
But you have to say from who it's coming from, right? It's like, okay, maybe I'll self-censor
Don't you think it's coming from left?
They give the impression that it's coming from the university, especially that self-censoring. If it's the students can come and say whatever the hell they want. I self-censor myself sometimes while doing this podcast because of something I might think our viewers won't like to hear. But then me presenting that as YouTube censoring me.
Sorry, but that's different from a university.
No, but students can come and say whatever they want. And a lot of times these people are complaining about students. So you can't put that in the same category as university censoring you.
This is somebody who I think is not even worthy of the word intellectual. But have you seen the video of Jordan Peterson being protested by students?
No.
Oh, I sent it to you.
Or when?
Couple,
Oh,
like
sorry.
6 months ago.
Oh,
But anyway,
maybe I've seen
yeah,
it.
we made another video about something. But anyway, my point is, yeah, sure, they should say, you should say whatever you want. But if if you're somebody's giving a lecture and you're shouting,
Yeah,
that's harassment. If you're heckling,
sure.
I've never
Fine.
been. I mean,
I'll
I
give you
love it
that.
when comedians can. Yeah, it's just I'm against heckling, even if it's a like comedy show, lecture show. You go protest your student representative, tell them why is university inviting these people, or why is university allowing this teach. And by the way, I think to be honest, like students should not be having too much say in who their teacher is, really. You
But
know,
yeah, they
that's
shouldn't
not
have a
the
say,
student's
but they
place.
can they can have
Or
their
the parents say,
yeah,
or
but
it's kind
they're
of like this year thing.
yeah.
I'm a bit hardcore on the fact that, to be honest, you should do as you are told until you're like 21 or 25 maybe. So just do as
But
you are
yeah,
told. Just don't.
but
I don't know if a
yeah.
student should be allowed to do protest and all that. I don't think they're,
Well,
frankly, they
that I
have
don't
the,
know.
yeah, I don't
Who
know
does?
about that.
Who does? Who does have the
Adults.
intellectual? Yeah, who knows?
Now, if you consider yourself a student,
Yeah.
it means you have something to learn, right? I
Yeah,
do.
but you
I
you can
consider
be much
myself a
older.
student.
You can be a
So
student at any age, though.
yeah,
So I
exactly.
don't know.
So maybe you shouldn't
Yeah, and so maybe
just
you've
you
learned
shouldn't try
something,
to
and now you
shut
want to
up other
express
people.
yourself. No, I mean just because you're a
Express it.
student, you
Don't
should
shut
take
up
it.
other people.
Yeah, but
Why do
shut
you
up like
need to
how?
shut?
I agreed with the heckling, but if you come and there's a protest and then you turn around and go back, okay, they're protesting and that's not cancel culture. They're allowed to say whatever they want.
What if they heckle you? But what if they?
Sure, if
Okay,
they're heckling, and I
this is.
gave you
I
that.
don't. I'm not talking about legal stuff. I'm not talking about
Yeah.
legal stuff now. I'm just talking about like moral, let's say. But what's the point of me? Let's say somebody, Samuel Huntington, comes to my university. Somebody who I'm a huge fan of, as mentioned previously. And then I put posters on that Samuel Huntington is a fraud and he's an idiot and all that. What's the point of that? Have I refuted any of his arguments? Have I done
No, I'm not
anything like
saying that
that?
there's
No, I
necessarily a
just put
good
some.
strategy, but yeah, sure, maybe your strategy won't be good. I'm not saying it's effective or good.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm not for
Yeah.
illegal, making it illegal, but there is something that makes people, uncomfortable. And again, I
Sure.
agree with you. I wish people had bigger balls and didn't give a shit about any of this. But in reality, is that just like back in 70s and 60s, there was no legal precautions against talking against religion or against certain things.
Mm-hmm.
But the society was so taboo that
Or
people
communism.
self-censored. Communism or McCarthy,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
exactly.
believe people got being blacklisted was not a legal thing. It was just something that was culturally forced upon Hollywood
Yeah.
studios. So you can't deny that was a real thing. But
And
yes, I agree with you that legally, of course, there shouldn't be limits on other people's freedom of speech. But it's a bad thing that society has devolved to a position where if you have a slightly differing view on certain issues, and I'm one of the people, by the way, who on the left has quite a lot of, like,
mm-hmm.
quite a lot of issues that are not welcomed by majority. So it's a bad thing. It's a you can yeah. It's not a legal thing. It's not. They're not. It's not Fahrenheit for God damn, I forget the name of the book. They're not coming and enforcing it's not 1984, sure,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Anyway, my concluding remarks here is that I think this is hopefully going to turn into a very fun story. And I think that
yeah,
in 6 months or a year, we're going to make another story about this and I think have a big laugh.
hopefully,
Over it.
let's hope so.
I think someone should open definitely some betting lines, whether they make it to the summer program, whether that even happens. Or if
No,
some
no,
of
no,
these
no,
people
no,
come out and say, "Oh, what? You put my name with these people? You told me it's gonna be X, Y,
no.
like anything." I wouldn't be surprised. The article
I
is
would.
hilarious. You have to go read it.
I
Saying that
bet.
they're full of themselves is doesn't do it justice.
Let's do this publicly. That I'm willing to bet that within the the next 4 years. Sorry, next 4 years,
Oh,
we'll have our first sort of plaintiff in a suit against the against
man,
the Austin University scam.
that's an easy bet. I'm telling you, they might not reach this on this summer program thing where you don't get a degree or anything. Like literally, I could organize it here over Zoom, and I wouldn't be surprised if they can't put that together. I mean, that's how little faith I have, let alone in
Yeah.
4. Yeah.
That is, yeah. I mean, yeah. Frankly, I think you're right. I must say, I'm just sad. I must say, this was like me working out my personal issues regarding me liking Neil Ferguson previously. So it's very helpful.
It's all
Psychotherapy
good. I'm sure you got that out
session.
of it. Okay,
Yeah.
anything to mention, Sam, then about this new platform? I mean, we know very little. Apparently, Briahna Joy Gray, Maté, and Glenn Greenwald are joining this new Call-In podcast. I went on their website, Call-In website. It's like a podcast service, but I think you download the app and then you share audios, and there's an interactivity to it, which is, well, very common on YouTube, but I guess it's not very common in audio form only. So that's all I've kind of gathered on it.
Yeah, it's just it's interesting. It was interesting. Just I connected these two stories because I wanted to just. It seems that there is again. You see, there is a real problem with freedom of speech, and I would regard Glenn Greenwald, Briahna Joy Gray, and Maté as serious, legitimate people, as in not grifters, basically.
Yeah,
I mean,
of
we all
course.
grift to an extent, but you know. Yeah, so in a way you have these, in my view, it seems more honest attempts at creating a space for freedom of speech, for free discussion, even if that discussion is horrible, because there are horrible people out there. I mean, it was Chapo Trap House, actually, the interesting thing about Facebook and the meta thing, and they kept saying, they complain about Facebook. It's their complaints is basically about human, like, nature. That's like, of course it's a cesspool of disgusting things and all that. So I don't know if you heard this, YouTube is taking away dislike buttons, which I think is a very negative development, and it's clearly a signal that they're gonna go more towards CNN and MSNBC stuff. So it just was, I wanted to just parallel to a grifters project like the Barry Weiss one. I just wanted to say that there seems to be a real thing that both grifters and non-grifters are addressing, and I hope.
And this is on YouTube, and it's totally different than that, and I agree with what you said, and it just makes me think. I'm thinking of putting a poll up. And like right now, just any people watching here, let us know in the comment section if you want. I'm curious if people are going on Rumble or not. I was looking at Glenn Greenwald's numbers on Rumble, and I looked at like 5 or 6 of them, and they were higher than his YouTube channel. So I'm curious if people on Rumble were concerned to go on it, because going on other platforms would really stretch us, make it hard, like Instagram and stuff. But Rumble is the same format. So I'm curious, are people on Rumble? Are you watching Rumble?
Yeah, and to be honest, I think we should in our poll say maybe Rumble, Substack, or some audio platform, because I do, and we had comments regarding that. I do think we should do an audio thing, because our content is the type of content that I personally, whenever I listen to Useful Idiots or I don't know, like majority of times I'm not watching it, I'm doing something else and listening to it, or it's playing on TV and I'm doing something. So I think
we should make 2 polls. I think we need to make 2 polls then. One is to ask about Rumble. Anyway, we can talk about it later. And the second one is to ask people, where do they mainly get their audio podcast from?
Or what's their preferred medium, audio or video? Like what?
I mean, we're gonna keep on going with the video anyway, but
the video, the thing is, the video is I don't know. I'm a bit more fan of the audio and animation and stuff, but the video is so much more authentic. There is a feeling of authenticity. I don't know. Sorry.
So anyway,
production meeting.
We'll put those polls up. Okay, Sam, let's move on. Like I said, we haven't spoken about Jimmy Dore in a while. And yeah,
Yes.
with Sam Seder. So what do we have to say here? So
I mean,
pretty
there
much,
was.
go ahead.
Oh no, sure. I just wanted to ask if you could give us a sort of a
Yeah.
breakdown of what happened, and then we give our commentary.
Exactly. So based on my understanding, and I've only watched one Sam Seder video, so maybe he did more, and I watched Jimmy Dore's response to it. But based, of course, everybody knows Jimmy Dore, one of the main topics that he's covering right now are about vaccines. And he recently did this video where pretty much there was this paragraph from the Fortune article, and his producer, someone who works for him, like completely changed the meaning of according to him, completely changed the meaning. I mean, not just the sentence, the complete argument. I mean, it was a big change. It wasn't a small one. It completely presents something else. If you ask me,
added a despite.
Yeah, but it completely changed. No, and Jimmy Dore himself showed he moved this, put this sentence together, and it completely changed the meaning and which argument it supports. So it was a huge kind of change. Sam Seder pointed that out, and pretty much Jimmy Dore makes a video where for 15 or 12 or 13 minutes of it, he kind of goes over all of his positions on the whole vaccine and everything. And then at the end, like the last 5 or 6 minutes, he point by point shows how much of that they had changed, and then the fact that he fired the producer. I mean, I feel like he himself should have also, like, this article supported his points in a big way. So I mean, he should have himself been more aware of what is this the case in Singapore, what this article is saying and stuff. So I feel like the responsibility should have perhaps gone beyond this producer. But I think that's kind of what happened, plus a small take of mine, I guess. So back to you, Sam.
No, you put it precisely well, I think. I mean, the breakdown. I would add there is this video by this guy called Sean. I believe it's 20 minutes and goes through all of Jimmy Dore's sort of vaccination and stuff. And look, I think I told you this when we talked first time. I think, what Jimmy Dore team or Jimmy Dore show did was completely wrong. And, you shouldn't do that, obviously, especially when it comes to a subject like that. It's disgusting. But putting that aside, that's obviously wrong, right? It very reminded me of Kyle Kalinski's apology to Jimmy Dore.
Mm-hmm.
When you make a 20-minute video in which you spend like 18 minutes of it explaining and excusing yourself and saying how you're right, and then spend like, oh yeah, I was, that thing that was wrong.
Yeah.
And the fact that, by the way, I didn't understand from Jimmy Dore's video, and I couldn't, because he doesn't put his shows like behind I can't understand if he did a correction before they called him out, or if he did a correction just now. If he did a correction before call him out, I give him far more credit. And it's just, I would say the video felt like you don't need to just say fucking sorry. Okay, man, I'm sorry, I didn't check my producers, blah blah blah, and it moved on. That's one thing.
I agree with you there. So that's all I have to say. So continue.
But I would say at least Jimmy Dore did apologize. At least Kyle Kalinski did apologize. At least they goddamn responded to the criticism.
Yeah.
Sam Seder goes and says that, yeah, we are wrong on this channel all the time, and we acknowledge it. When have they ever acknowledged that they're wrong on the whole Russia stuff, on the whole blood stuff? That doesn't make, by the way, that doesn't excuse, like, again, I don't think Jimmy Dore, gets, like, he says, my producer did it and I fired my producer.
Go ahead. You just got frozen for a second. You're good.
Yeah, exactly. And I fired my producer. I don't think that's a good enough thing. Like, if you are talking about and it's called the Jimmy Dore, like, you don't even read the article that is that.
Yeah.
Like, what is? I'm sorry, but we do a show, and I work 2 jobs. You work 1 job and a study, and it's not like. And okay, we do 1 episode per week. We don't do every night. But don't do every night episodes if you can't read a very short news article. Like, I'm sorry, but this
Yeah.
like
And
this is
like I
not a
said, he
level of
didn't change
research
words. It's not about the words that he only changed.
he added
He changed,
sentences
and it
together.
changed the argument. I mean, it flipped what was being said on its head almost.
It flipped. I thought it
completely
exaggerated.
changed. No, it completely changed it. It went from saying that back in the day they had all these restrictions and now those restrictions are gone, to him saying, no, these restrictions are continuing right now, which is literally the opposite of what was said.
I thought it said despite the restrictions,
yeah,
the
which means
caseload
that
was
the restrictions are still ongoing. But based on what I understood from the article, maybe I'm mistaken, please correct me. Based on what I understood from the article, it was saying that they were there
stopped.
And now we stopped. So it's important and think to, and yeah, so that's what makes it the thing that he should have read the article and
yeah, but then again, he's been called out by a bunch of people who have never responded in the mildest form to a criticism.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, sorry, my head.
Yeah,
Apologies for that. Yeah, and I'd like to point out, because I mean, as you said, I like to mention a lot of times that I don't have any evidence or any data for a lot of shit. But for this one, I do have a single piece of evidence. For example, Sam Seder, in his debate with Briahna Joy Gray on the Forced the Vote issue, where Virgil Texas is moderating, he's told specifically, you're wrong about the idea that Kevin McCarthy or any Republican can become the leader unless Democrats vote for him. Or if Nancy Pelosi is not voted the leader, then they have to go back and caucus again and blah, blah, blah. Right? And it's still in the fucking like live in face-to-face with people. He's like, he doesn't admit he's wrong. He never admits he's wrong. And he's calling out Jimmy Dore. And although Jimmy Dore's apology leaves a lot of, in my view, is short of a real apology, but at least he's it seems to be miles ahead of most people.
Oh yeah, including TYT. I mean, I've never seen TYT also. Or like Cenk, whenever he never apologized properly. I mean, yeah, exactly. So comparing to those people, he did a much better job.
Studio. Yeah. TYT just built a new studio with people's money, which I'm sure the construction was all like the funding and all that was. Anyway, but like I made a one unclear, somewhat stupid comment from cops, and I still can't recover from it. And, you know, I'm still going, like, you know what I mean? Like, I did apologize for it and clarify. But it was a stupid comment. I don't want to, but like, yeah, if you're going to apologize, yeah, it's just like Sam Seder calling Jimmy Dore out for not apologizing. It's just, yeah. We live in a most hypocritical time. I don't know. Maybe not. I'm just,
Can't disagree with you there. Do I have anything else to say? Oh yeah, you brought up, oh my god, I can't believe you brought up the Briahna Sam Seder video, because that's probably one of the 3 Sam Seder videos that I watched, and god, he was unbearable in that debate with Briahna. Jesus Christ. And the first time I found him to be most unbearable, that was like the first time I came across him, actually had to do with Jimmy Dore, and he was attacking Jimmy Dore for going on Fox News and then mocking him for not knowing about this one specific thing. And I guess
about the Supreme Court stuff. Yeah.
I didn't know. I mean, that was the most off-putting shit
and
ever.
By the way, that's it is so off-putting when people are like, I mean, because I'm sorry, I don't want to blow my own horn, but I could get these motherfuckers. They comment on everything from global politics to domestic politics to state politics to federal politics to economic history to all of that. They feel free to comment on, and I fucking can get them on all of those things with one question or 2 maximum, and then they go on as if like everybody should know it's like the people who are like, oh, who's the president of Uzbekistan? Oh, you don't know, so you don't know anything about foreign policy. Oh, fuck off, you asshole.
No, exactly. So, yeah, I think that's enough talking about Sam Seder. Sam, let's move on to this, and Jimmy Dore. Let's move on to this messed up video that you sent me and told me to listen to about this,
Well,
and an article.
I wanted to just to show you what kind of months. I wanted to give you a small heart attack.
So tell people what it's about.
It's about this. I believe it's a lady, right?
Yeah.
I think it's her. She
Yeah.
adopts a beagle, known to be one of the more friendlier dogs out there. I mean, you might, yeah. And then it's the beagle is not very, it's not a very I mean, to be
No, the thing is,
from her accounts,
they adopted a beagle, right? So they adopted a beagle that was an adult
shelter,
and
I
already had a past life. Yeah, they didn't get a puppy.
Already,
I think that's important to
yes.
bear in mind with how this dog acted.
Yes.
Continue.
Yes. And it's important to bear in mind her own, like, it seems like she didn't took her dog for walks or
she had her
any
for a
activity.
week.
It seems like she used the dog as a sort of a statue or something. Like,
and then,
it's
okay. And
the
then
dog there.
how did she kill the dog after a week or two? How did she?
Oh, lethal injection, I believe. At the vet,
herself, or she took it to the vet?
No, man.
Okay. And then she wrote a whole article about this.
Yeah, that was Chapo Trap House guys pointed this out. That was like the most fucked up thing, because you might have a dog that, we've had, like, I grew up on a semi-farm thingy, and you sometimes you have to put down animals or something. You have to. We had a horse that got blind, and everybody put, like, if a horse got blind in one eye, they put them down. We kept it for like natural life and all that, and I love that horse so much. Anyway, but but sometimes you have to do shit like that, but you don't fucking write an article and making yourself the victim of it.
Yeah,
like, oh, I went through this nightmare of murdering a dog.
Jesus Christ, and doing that writing, and then but okay, I went to
man, you don't believe when I was when I was whipping my slave, I just didn't feel good, it just didn't feel right, as the blood was gushing out.
No,
don't write about that shit.
Yeah. And Chapo Trap House had a lot of fun with it. Although I feel like they weren't out telling you. I feel like they don't know what kind of dog a beagle is, because they're like, a small little beagle, 10 pounds, bitch, beagles. This was a grown-up beagle. They become like 12 kilos or so, which is like 24 pounds or so. And then they kind of make fun of, because so this dog came from a shelter, right? And this is one of the reasons that shelters, like for instance, when I got my first and only dog, we first went to a shelter to get it, but we were young, and the shelter said no, because these dogs are hard to, they've been through a lot of them, and it's just not easy, and they want to know that it's not the owner who's experienced.
Yeah, they're like bipolar.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of them have been abused.
Personality
no, they've been like abused and like they've been
exactly.
like hurt and all this. So she went and got it, and then so this dog was bigger, but then the dog apparently bit. This was apparently the last funny thing, bit her boyfriend's hand, and he rushed to the emergency room, and they were making fun of him so much, like, this little dog bit you, and he rushed to the, I mean, I have a tiny Yorkie poo, and she doesn't bite me, but they have sharp teeth, so I'm guessing if like a 12-kilo dog kind of really bites someone's hand, I didn't find that. I think you can go to the emergency room. It's not the end of the world.
I mean, no.
And that part was just a bit, I think they went a bit overboard.
Man, I don't know. We have a Kazakh alibi, and it puts my whole fucking arm in his mouth.
Yeah.
My friend has a German Shepherd.
But he didn't bite your arm. Yeah, but he didn't bite it. Go get a German Shepherd that's been in that kind of thing and bite you.
In the article, there is no mention of a goddamn what's it called?
Like stitches or anything.
There's no mention of a stitch. I get a scratch. Yeah, when the German Shepherds put his mouth over my mouth, or the
that's different though.
But
he didn't bite you. No, but a beagle can bite you and hurt your hand. I'm sure a beagle, if they bite, you're different. You're saying you put your hand in a dog's mouth. People put their hands in a lion or a tiger's mouth and nothing happens. because they don't
You're
bite.
right.
It's
I'm just
different.
saying. I think the boyfriend was. I mean, they don't mention any stitches in the article, so I
Yeah.
assume the boyfriend was a scratch, and because he was a bit of a pussy, to be honest, like in a
Yeah.
coward way, not in a. I don't mean it in a. Yeah. So he was, because he was a coward. Like,
Yeah,
I
maybe
don't
that.
know. I
But
just
anyway, none
feel
of
like
this justifies anything. But it's not even a justification. It's how mental this person is to
and
then
I
go
don't know.
write
By the
this
way,
article.
I don't get it. Why don't you just go to the countryside and leave the beagle instead of
Uh,
taking him to a vet
in
to do
North
a lethal
America, you can't
injection?
really do that, or take it back to the
Why
shelter,
not?
huh? Because
What do you mean in North America you can't do that? There's Idaho
I
is
mean,
all
you can,
empty.
but the,
You
the,
just
the
go.
dog could. I mean, I don't know if there will be like the things around and the kind of environment that it would need to
Who gives a
survive.
shit at that? You're gonna kill it. It's
Yeah.
better than murdering it. I
Or
don't
take
know.
it back to
It's
the
just
shelter. I'm pretty sure the shelter would have to take it
no.
back.
But wait. I remember though from advertisement from shelters, they keep the dogs for a limited period and then they sort of kill them, right?
At the
It
end,
was.
if
I
if
remember that.
nobody takes the dog, yeah, I believe so.
No, but
After a
I
long
remember the
time.
ads for shelters were so fucked up because they were like, basically they were like hostage videos. We have this dog. You have 2 months to adopt this dog. If you don't adopt, and the dog was like missing a limb, obviously, and was like having,
Yeah.
jeez. Anyways, the
But
whole thing.
this
But
person,
no, I just sent that video for you to have a bit of a hysterical. Just don't. By the way, I still don't get though. Don't kill any animals. Just leave the fucking animals alone. They might die in the nature, but just, why do you have to get your hand? I don't get it. Anyway.
yeah, there's actually this other story. This is even more messed up. These people on Instagram. So this Instagram couple, very famous, these vloggers, blah, blah. My sister told me about it. And they had this dog that they loved and they had as a kid. Then they have a baby. And, and then the dog, for some reason, this happens to some dogs. They become very jealous of a human baby. So the dog was very jealous of this human baby and wasn't behaving properly towards the baby. Nothing happens to the baby. But they just take the dog also, and they also kill the dog. And they make this video about how sad we are, we killed the dog. And everybody's like, why don't you give it to somebody else?
What?
I mean, shelter. Well, you're saying why did you kill the dog? We understand.
What?
Like there's an issue. Like for instance, Andrew Yang, that we hate so much, that we talk crap all the time, and I can't stand him. Him, apparently his kid was allergic to the dog. And he gave the dog to another family member. He didn't go assassinate, murder the dog.
My child was allergic to the dog, so I hired the Ras Al Ghul assassin organization, the League of Shadows. I had to hire the League of Shadows to end this nonsense. The fuck are you just leaving the goddamn creature alone? Jesus, what is wrong?
There's so many people in North America and stuff who would open hands take your dog, even if your dog is
or just go to fucking drive 3 hours, leave the dog and go. Just don't murder anything. I don't want any
people's reasoning, man. Like they think and they reach. I tell you, when people don't think and reach a messed up conclusion, I'm more happy with that. When people put their brain into it and put a few thoughts into it, and then they do something so messed up.
Although I would say, like growing up with horses and all that, it was always like I found it always so. That's one of the reasons I found like I don't want to have anything to do with animals, to be honest, because I found human relations with animals to be so disgusting. Like a horse's leg breaks and they were like, oh, okay, let's kill it.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Like, do you kill a human being's legs breaks and you're like, okay, finish him.
Yeah.
It's over now. And most horses are far nicer than humans. So.
Yeah. Well, anything else to add with this story?
No, that was
messed up, sad story. I think in this video, at least you've mentioned Chapo Trap House maybe a dozen times or or more. Maybe
I don't agree with a lot of stuff they like. Their taste in movies and stuff I don't like, but they are the funniest bunch, I think.
All right, folks, let's move on to the final segment of the progressive world, which is progressive tweets. And please like and subscribe. I always forget to say this, but if you've been watching us for a while, please do. As every single YouTuber out there says, it helps a lot, apparently. But I'm sure at least us, it makes us happy, puts a smile on our face. So that you're guaranteed. But yeah, Sam, so some of these tweets that I had sent you, we already covered them in our stories, Ryan Grimm's bullshit Intercept article and all that. So let's start with this first one by a friend, Glenn Greenwald. So he wrote, kudos to Anna Kasparian for acknowledging that as she actually watched the trial, she realized that the narrative she was fed by corporate media about the Rittenhouse case was wildly different than the fact, and this is before the most important evidence. So Sam, you said that you haven't really been following this trial a bit, and I really didn't know much about it until 2 days ago, but now I watched one or two things. But pretty much this person was accused and is now facing trial for having murdered 2 or 3 people, I believe. I really don't know the details much about this story.
He's a cop, right?
No, he was a 17-year-old who apparently, if I'm not mistaken, I really never really followed it. I'm not following it too much now, but yeah, he goes to a different state during some protests, and he goes there, I think he said, to protect stores and stuff from looting, and apparently allegedly he ends up murdering apparently 2 or 3 people. And
what do you mean? Like he went as volunteer to protect stores from looting?
I believe so, and people please correct me if I'm mistaken, but that is my understanding. So then the whole time in the media they were accusing him of murder, this, that, including Anna Kasparian. But now that he's actually in trial, some pieces of evidence are coming out to show that, apparently someone else was trying to shoot him first. Apparently we thought that he killed Black people, but none of the people murdered, if I'm not mistaken, are Black. Anyway, a lot of the assumptions that were made without any kind of evidence by people like Anna Kasparian and the mainstream media are apparently being debunked. So Glenn is giving kudos to Anna Kasparian for her, apparently after being kind of dismissive and saying those things, for now actually having watched the trial and what's going on and kind of changing her opinion. And the prosecutor is apparently trying to pull some bullshit, like, because before a trial they often have a trial without the jury, where the judge says which kind of evidence you can bring in and what's not relevant. And apparently this
this
prosecutor,
what was it called? Discovery?
Yeah, I'm not too sure of the term.
I forget.
But, so pretty much the prosecutor wasn't following that, and so he gets into the judge like calls him out on it and some other things, and then the prosecutor tries to draw a line. It's not connection between him playing video games and wanting to kill people or something, and he the way he responds to the prosecutor is absolutely hilarious. It's like, I don't understand your question or stuff. But yeah, it's a big story, and apparently people in mainstream media, according to Glenn Greenwald and others who've been following, they're also kind of eating their words, and they're acknowledging that perhaps they talked a lot of crap without knowing at all what was going on. So if I missed anything, people, please don't accuse me of doing the same. I'm trying not to do the same. I just wanted to talk quickly about the tweet. So I don't know if you have something to add. If not, we can move on, Sam.
No, but yeah, don't just let authorities handle some of. I don't get like these animes. These people who I barely can get to the fucking gym. They volunteer to protect other people's business.
Well, maybe when you're 17 and stuff, you had a bit more energy.
No, I was worse, to be honest. If you recall, I used to be in a very, very bigger shape, let's say.
Well, I think you could still move. You exaggerate that, but let's move on, Sam. I'm throwing it back to you now. Why don't you read the Briahna tweet and with the Hassan Piker back and forth and tell me a little bit about it?
Well, okay, I don't, to be honest, know too much about it as well. It was just came across, but apparently there is a summit, Central Strike Summit, called General Strike Summit, and it's going to be an online event that a lot of people, including Briahna Joy Gray, Jimmy Dore, and a lot of other people are going to attend. And then Hassan Piker, who's famous like left online presenter, I suppose, gamer, blah, made fun of it by saying a general strike is when you watch my live stream. sort of making fun of the event, as in like, it's not a strike if you know. And then a lot of people pointed out it's not a strike, it's a summit, it's in support of the things. But then Briahna Joy Gray responded to his tweets specifically, saying, I was asked by Red DLSRE, an organizer who's in the streets working hard to make the world better every day, to participate in a live stream to raise awareness of an ongoing strike wave. I am proud to be involved. So, I mean, a lot of other people were far harsher, but yeah, she's clearly taking like the high ground, as in, yeah, I am not ashamed of being involved in a online promotional thing for a strike thing. And a lot of people apparently were pointing out that, yeah, Hassan Piker is, it does seem like petty. Why would you even do it? Type of thing. I don't understand why people tweet most of the things they tweet or say. So to be honest, I'm not too surprised, but it is hypocritical of, and who, like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I
don't
also,
know. What do you think?
No, I also, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, he mocked it, and then she got back there. Since I don't know much more of the other narratives and that are surrounding it, I don't care much about Hassan either. So I can't think of any
they
way
were
of
saying that
coming to his defense.
he's a rich. No, they're saying he's a rich guy. That is, leftism is just a lifestyle thing for him, and it is. I think it is just because he's not. I don't know if you've seen him talk about issues and stuff. He's not really like, no, there's not much substance there. So, yeah, but it was a weird thing. I don't know why he made fun of this.
Yeah, people, I mean, I really hope all these people at Twitter and all the time, I hope there's like some kind of return in terms of views and all this for them, that it's worth them tweeting so much and all this shit on this garbage platform that there's barely
the
anyone
platform
on.
is good. The content is. I love. It's like
with
Facebook.
One hell of a
Facebook
dumbass
has the
CEO.
best. Well, as opposed to yeah, Facebook has like the best platform in terms of like the things you can do, in my view, but it has like the worst people.
But Twitter doesn't have a good platform either, I feel. It's all about, listen to what my 3 words that I just put together here. Really,
at least you can post goddamn pictures and you can put a hyperlink. It's not like Instagram, which is like the goddamn God. I hope Instagram it just gets destroyed ASAP. I hate Instagram so much.
All right. We've had this conversation so many times. I always come back to this. Let's move on, Sam, and finish up with a good friend. Hopefully one day a friend of the show, Aaron Maté. Sorry about that, people. Hopefully one day.
It's not my At this point, it's just a like celebrity kind of figure to us.
For now, we'll hopefully be a friend of the show one day. And by the way, we just had an interview with Gerald Horn that we posted last night. So if you haven't checked that out, I found it to be amazing. But Aaron Maté wrote in response to Sam Seder. So Sam Seder tweeted, where do we take bets that this producer is fictional? So he's saying that Jimmy Dore saying that it was his producer who altered that paragraph and all that he's saying that there's no such thing as that producer, perhaps, and it was all fictional.
Before we read Aaron Maté's response before that, I must say, I was surprised to find out that production, like how many people are involved, that there are multiple producers and one of them had to be let go. Like, I don't know. It's just,
they're putting out a lot of content. He's putting out these big things and he's always ready with slide after slide and slide. So it's probably like a producer / video editor. I'm guessing they kind of mix these roles. Yeah.
I thought it's like the Jamie situation with Joe Rogan. There is one guy doing that. But anyways.
Yeah, he has one, and he's on the road and he takes people. So yeah, anyway, I don't know how he runs his operation.
Yeah.
And Aaron Maté wrote, he's a real person who lost his job. Where do we take bets that Sam Seder would delete this tweet and inform his audience that he spread false innuendo that this producer was fictional? I think this kind of comes to your point too, that when Sam Seder talks bullshit that is not true and false and all that, he never comes out and corrected. I think Aaron Maté is pointing out on that. And also this, I mean, you already had a good shot
And
for once in your life.
Fair, if Aaron Maté says he's a real person, I would believe him, because
I would believe him much more.
He has a track record of being truthful, unlike Sam Seder.
Exactly. And Sam Seder, listen, for once you made a criticism that seemed to have like work, and you kind of landed it. You don't need to go that far and go the TYT route and making up extra bullshit. Just take your tiny victory for once.
Yeah, that's the thing. And the whole video was a bit, I don't know, I felt that in the video that, this is people's lives.
Yeah.
This issue is not some other issue. This is like, people's lives he's talking about. God damn it, people. So, it felt very, very theatrical. And again, I just wish, like, the Sam Seder show is like, if they got rid of the Majority Report, if they got rid of Sam Seder, I like all the other people. It seems all the other ones seem far more balanced. They just keep getting bullied into these positions by him. Keeps shouting at them. Anyways,
I mean, I never watched his content really.
I watched it for bits because Al Gore went there. But like, it's so annoying to me that they got to meet Al Gore before he dies, and I didn't.
I didn't know you were a fan of him. Oh, Al Gore. Sorry. No, you mean Gore Vidal.
Sorry, Gore Vidal. I mean Gore Vidal. Sorry. Fuck Al Gore.
Starting to get late, Sam. I think it's
Gore Vidal. Gore Vidal, guys. I may my programming may have just went. I may have revealed too much. The Clinton programming is shit. I got vaccinated, and see, after vaccination, I'm mixing Gore Vidal with Al Gore.
You see, but yeah, and no, Sam Seder's video was annoying, but this is my last point. It was nowhere as bad as Anna and Cenk's preachiness. He didn't get to their level of preachiness, because they get to it. They're like, if you want to go see this guy, or it's
I find Sam more annoying.
More annoying?
Because I find him to be more condescending and
he's so condescending. Cenk is not condescending that much.
Cenk has lost the argument and he's just angry. And you're like, okay, all right.
And then he gets so pissed off, and he looks like he's like about to cry and lecture you. And I hate being lectured. It's one of the worst things. I hope I never lecture people.
No, I hope to teach at the university.
No, that way, but lecturing people like what pisses me off, like, let's say if there's a car accident and you were you made the mistake, right? And then you come out of the car, you're like, hey, sorry, I made this mistake, and like, I hate you, I'm really sorry. And then the person starts lecturing you, like, oh, why did you drive this? Or you have to drive it in payment. Yo, shut the
to be fair, in that situation, I understand it for like 5 minutes, because it's there was some action. Like, I can understand the mental, like, you're in an angry mental situation.
Fair enough.
But I agree with you that a condescension, although I do love it sometimes when I do it too. Like, people have like superstitious beliefs or religious beliefs. It does.
I feel bad for
fun. I know, but
so sometimes I don't do it. This one guy, when I first started working somewhere like
old
4 years
people,
ago,
I feel bad.
Yeah, but even younger people. And this guy was telling me,
cool.
And I had just started working there, like it had been a few months. And this guy was telling me that he believes in like kind of spirits or something. And he was about to say it. I was like, oh yeah, what were you saying? He's like, no, you're going to make fun of me and stuff. I was like, no, man, it's a work situation. I'm not going to, you could feel free. It's a safe space. I won't make fun of you too much. But I guess I do that. So he kind of knew where that was going to go.
Well, I must say I am far more malicious, because I do tend to, like in workplace and stuff, I tend to go, yes, please tell me, interesting. And I save it. I try to, and then I do mock it very badly, very harshly. I mean, you've seen me mock it. Yeah.
I try not to a lot of things, because
I think if you're a young person, I do think it's pretty. Sure. I mean, maybe nowadays I don't think that anymore. I think if you're under 50, it's pretty bad.
Oh, okay. Let's leave that. Let's leave that there.
So I'm just saying, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm guilty of condescension and patronizing, but yeah, you're right though. It's a very bad thing, even if you're right, even when you're right.
Yeah, it just annoys me. I don't really like it too much. But yeah, I don't think that's a shocker to anyone. I don't think anybody likes it. I love people who are condescending and lecturing.
I am saying sometimes I guess I'm in minority, pro.
But okay, folks, please like and subscribe. And as always, much more importantly, leave your comments, questions, criticism down below, and we'll make sure to get to them. If not, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in our next video. Thank you.